There's Masters. Great chance here. That does it. Steve McGavin. And for the first time, Colchester United have won a major final.
Still Garcia, finally the company arrives and it's in! It's a freak-out goal from Ricardo Carvalho. Richard Garcia wants the credit and the shock is on at the bridge.
And it's promotion for Colchester United. They've made it into the Championship for the first time in 69 years.
Porter, being held, there is Porter, and that's Walker!
Hello and welcome to Beyond the Barside, the podcast that covers everything Colchester United. A big thank you to those who are listening on Apple, Spotify and YouTube. You're doing us a huge favour there, but no more than the people who are sharing our podcast on all of the social media platforms, Facebook, X, Instagram. You're doing us a huge favour getting the word out to as many U's fans as possible. It's been a bit of a negative week for Colchester United. Unfortunately, the U's came up short against Accrington Stanley, but there was better news for the women's side as they put in a dominant display to win 7-3, and we've got loads lined up on the pod today. First up, I caught up with Si and Dave after the Accrington game to get their thoughts on the performance and where it all went wrong for Col U. Hope you enjoy. Welcome back to Beyond the Barside. I'm Aaron J and I'm joined as ever by U's fans Si and a very despondent Dave as well, as we are post Accrington Stanley. It was a 1-0 loss away. It was a 12:30 kickoff live on Sky. Accrington took hold of the game from the get-go. The U's couldn't get a foothold and it was a dismal display. I think lack of threat going forward, lack of bite in the defence. It really wasn't pleasurable watching. Si, you made the trip. How did you feel, mate?
I think you've actually made it sound better than it was, even though you were very...
Even though I've said everything I've said was negative.
Yeah, that still made it sound better than it actually physically was. You know, how can you go to a team that's bottom of the league, in fact, bottom of the football pyramid, and not have a single shot on target? We managed 5 shots in total to their 16. They had 8 on target. And what puts that in perspective is possession stats. We had more of the ball. We were that bad. The team that's bottom of the league was willing to let us have the ball because they knew we were going to do nothing with it.
Mm-hmm.
If you took that performance alone, you'd have to say we've got to improve to become abysmal. There was just nothing there.
Yeah.
You could sign 11 free agents. In fact, you could probably put my Sunday League side out there. They get a better performance than what we produced the first half of Accrington. The only, I know we'll get onto it later, but the only slight positivity for me was the fact that Tom Smith actually had a fairly okay game in goal and proved why he's a decent reserve goalkeeper. And
we'll get onto that. Yeah, definitely.
It was tonk.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Particularly Accrington were all over us throughout the game, but particularly that opening sort of stanza, we really had to weather a storm. And then the goal comes from, it looked like the U's had quite a high defensive line of engagement. It looked like that we were trying to play high and recycle the ball in the Accrington half of the pitch. But as you said earlier, Si, we weren't doing anything with the ball when we had it. So it was sort of a fruitless task. But the goal comes because Baldwin and Araujo were turned really high up the pitch. Accrington were able to run into acres of space. They were clean through and they scored. Dave, it was very weak, wasn't it?
It was weak in all aspects of the game, with and without the ball. It was didn't really have to read between the lines, really. In Danny's interview afterwards, he pretty much put the blame for the goal on Baldwin jumping out. Araujo also out of position. Joe, we should say, out of position, and another issue for however many weeks now. We've been we didn't necessarily think he should be starting, but we queried, just to get a more balanced midfield, would Gape start, which obviously happened yesterday.
Yeah,
and it wasn't good. He didn't play well at all. It was almost Woodyard Mark II. He didn't complete a pass. He gave the ball away numerous occasions deep, and that's not for his role. That's not the worst thing. Throughout the first half, Accrington had time and space in the 20 yards in front of our penalty box when there was loose balls, when they were on the break, and Gape just wasn't there, providing no defensive cover, no solidity. There was one point, 2 or 3 times within a couple of minutes, because they just kept on coming at us. I could see Gape was the wrong side of the board every time. So even when we did manage to get some sort of interception or first contact when a ball went into the box, they won it every time, every single time. And so, yeah, he didn't. He had a poor game. I mean, it's one game. I'm not going to write him off, but it really wasn't good enough. It almost goes back to, I don't disagree with you, Si, that that it's not best when Bishop and Reed are playing together, but it was better than them not playing together yesterday. And it was just from 3 or 4 minutes in, you could tell it had that feeling. And I think a lot of us were looking around at each other in that away end like, it had that sinking feeling very early. So I got there. First thing, Accrington don't serve black coffee. It's the easiest drink.
So that's easier than white coffee.
Yeah. I had the most underwhelming sausage roll I've ever eaten, and I thought my day can't get any worse.
Should have just got back in the car and gone up to Harrogate, mate.
It's only down the road.
Yeah.
The one positive of my day was my parking space. It was on the main road as you turn in to go to the stadium, facing the right way to make a quick getaway afterwards. So that's the only positive that came from yesterday. But everywhere, I mean, and yeah, there was Danny. He seemed quite emotional, to be honest, in his post-match interview. It was the fight and the heart, and it's just the contradiction between the first time I spoke with you, Aaron, on the first episode. I pointed to Doncaster away last year. Yeah, we got tanked, but it was they'd given it their all, and it was just a case of just coming up short. And the difference between that and what we saw yesterday. But I mentioned it last week. Do your job. I mean, defenders jumping out, midfielders not been in the right position. Sorry, I don't like digging Lisby out, but how do you not hit the target? We'll come on to Aurora Edwards. The one time he showed some old Aurora getting to the byline, putting it across, gets to Lisby. He wasn't under pressure. Any pressure was in his own head, and to not score that, we would have, to be honest, we deserved to be 3 or 4 down at that point. But it changed. You've got to do your job, and then it's things, 4 separate occasions, and these are things that can go unnoticed, I think, but they're really symbolic, indicative of how a team is approaching it. I don't know if you noticed this, Si. 4 separate occasions, a long diagonal came over, decent balls, and whether it was Edwards, whether it was Gordon, I think Lisby did it in the first half, you could see they're waiting for the ball. And you could see he's going to let that bounce. If that bounces, it's going to bounce over his head and go out. 4 times. Professional footballers. And I said last week, tough love. This is more than that. I am angry, and I went nuclear for me at the final whistle. So I don't know for those, peek behind the curtain. We don't actually sit together at the games. I'm a nervous fidgeter. So I'm quite, unless we score, I'm generally pretty quiet. So, and sometimes there will be, not crossing the boarding or whatever will make me get up and say something. But at the end of the game, I went nuclear for me, which was I folded my arms and I did not clap. That will show them.
Good on you, mate.
Hope they're happy with themselves. But no, it was. I think it's as bad. That's as bad as it gets. Certainly the worst performance under the Cowleys. And there was normally in any game, there's something you can say for it, but there were 0 positives. 600 miles, 8 hours, 0 positives.
Yeah,
Positive was it was only 1-0. It should have been about 7.
Yeah, I mean it was a very disjointed side, wasn't it? It was a back four that hadn't actually played together as a unit they hadn't played together as a unit.
Yeah, sorry, Aaron, sorry to jump in. So I just think that was one other thing. As much as, I think Danny Cowley's the greatest living Englishman, but I was surprised there were that many changes to a team who had momentum. We didn't beat Crewe, but we hammered Crewe. In general play, and the team had momentum. So I was surprised to see that many changes that weren't enforced.
No,
really.
They were tactical.
And to put Arouse your left back, he didn't have a game. To be honest, when he went into the middle, he did okay in the second half of centre back, so he's clearly more comfortable there. But I even thought that he would just keep Reed and Bishop together just for that momentum, But yeah, I was surprised to see that many changes, particularly to the defence. And yeah, disjointed is a good word there, Aaron. Sorry, I jumped in. Sorry.
No, not at all.
Go back to that though, Dave. Sorry again, Aaron. It's my turn now. Sorry.
Jump in. It's fine.
It's just, I get that, and you can't make changes, but the errors that were being made, you don't see in a park on a Sunday. Like you said, not going to the ball, letting it bounce, it goes over your head, not being the right side of the ball. Even if we made 11 changes, still expect them to be able to do the basics right. And that's what was lacking. That was different to the Doncaster performance to this. You don't mind losing the game if you show heart, determination.
Yep.
They're breathing out. They're at full time. They're dropping down the pitch because they're knackered. They're giving everything. You're like, okay, fair play, lads. It happens. You lose, but I don't know. It just looked like a load of disinterested lads just walking around a pitch, and it
looked like they expected to win. It looked like when you're under your team, Aaron, like my under 14s. You can tell at the start of the game when they look over at the other team, this will be all right. Guys, come on. And it seemed like they did that yesterday.
Yeah, no, I'm interested to know, did they travel up on the day or were they there the night? So they were there the night before?
Yeah.
Okay,
because it seemed... but I think they trained in Burnley.
Okay.
And stayed local.
Okay, so they stayed local. They trained on the Friday. Great. It looked like a team that had just got off the coach.
Yeah.
They'd got there not long before the Hughes fans did. They're stiff. Do you know what I mean? It just didn't seem like a team that were raring to go. It seemed lackadaisical and it seemed disjointed. And then to top it off, arguably one of our best players for the last season and a bit gets a concussion. He goes off. He's sort of the rock at the back. He's one of the more positive influences in the squad. I think you're right, Si. I think Tom Smith came on and did well for himself. He had a really good game, and I'm glad he had a good game because he seems like a consummate professional. He's sat on the bench. He's done his job when he's been called upon. I know his first sort of few games for Colchester were a little bit shaky, but he was a young lad and he still is a young lad making his way in the game. That attitude of coming in and taking your chance and wanting to be a footballer and supporting the team and doing all of that stuff, that Tom Smith does, there could be a lot more players that could adopt that attitude.
He actually added leadership to the side. There was no leaders on that pitch. Absolutely no leaders. And I get the whole, they've just got off the coach. I'm sorry. They're footballers. They get paid a decent amount of money. I know lads that have been about Hercules for like 12 hours, jumped out the back of it and got into battle where their lives depend on it, have put performances in. So this whole, it's long travel. It's this. No, that's absolute rubbish. They're meant to be professionals. They're meant to be able to kick a ball straight.
Yeah.
And we've discussed it recently about leaders. Taylor, Kelleher, Ian Dolo not on the pitch. Obviously, two of them aren't going to be on the pitch anymore. And I think
we miss Flanagan
every week, no matter how they play. Flanagan and Anderson get criticised.
Yeah.
Yesterday was a Flanagan and Anderson-less team, and that attitude, their attitude, you can see that resilience that we had last year, and we haven't had as much this year. But two of the mainstays of that, the people that bring that resilience and that toughness and that will, whether you like them or not, Flanagan and Anderson do that. And we're both from out yesterday. I mean, it's not. I think, to be honest, Tucker did okay again. It probably would have been worse if not for him, especially in that first 20 minutes. I think he's the only one that can come out with any sort of credit, apart from Tom Smith, of course. But other than that, I mean, yeah, it was bleak. I struggle to see. It's going to be when we do later on in the pod, when we do the preview section for Bristol Rovers next week. I have no idea what that team's going to look like.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's all about how they bounce back, isn't it? It's all about how they come in on the Monday and how they react to such a performance. And there are going to be players in that squad that will reflect on the game and go, it wasn't good enough. I will fight for my place. There will also be players in that squad that will reflect back and go, it wasn't good enough, but I am still a good player and I should get in the team regardless of form. So, there's going to be two sides of the coin, and I hope that Danny and Nikki can evaluate the players that they have in front of them this week, put people in on merit, and give that reaction a little bit of thought going into the team selection. I don't know whether I'm making myself clear enough here, but I think the players that react positively to that defeat should be the players that play on Saturday. Is basically what I'm trying to say, because the quality is there. It's attitude that needs to be analysed, and it's heart that needs to be. At the moment, we're in a slump. We're not getting the goals we need. We're not getting the results we need. Heart and character gets you out of that, and I think that's what the team needs to be selected on.
And we need to. I never like digging out individual players. I say that as I'm about to dig out an individual player. But we spoke about Gape not doing the role he was brought in to do, and I think, where are we now with Awura?
I was really frustrated with him. The red cards alone was silly. I hope it gives him an opportunity to be out of the side, step away from the situation and reflect on where he's at. Because I've been guilty. I think we've all been guilty of this, and a lot of Hughes fans have, where we've made excuses for the underperformance of Awura Edwards.
We want him to succeed
because he's a talented young man. He's a very, very gifted footballer, but something isn't right. Now, it could well be that there is with some of the excuses and some of the reasons that we've given, where we've said, oh, maybe he's injured and he's lost a yard. I think that was what you said, Dave. We spoke about potentially he was looking for a move and then that move didn't come off, and maybe now he's sort of got to prove himself for January because he's not got any sort of speculation over his future now. He can just focus on football. Maybe he's not doing well off the pitch. Maybe maybe there's personal reasons behind it. Maybe there's something there. If that's the reason, someone should be safeguarding him and taking him out of the situation.
And more happens, and then everyone just has enough. And I think that is where we're at now. He's just had that beer too many. He's on the dance floor making an absolute exhibition of himself, so to speak. And everyone around is just like, Joe, what? I'm done with you. I'm done with these excuses. I'm done with having to defend. When you're time and time again, you're kind of coming back out and doing things like this. And
his head was clearly not there. I mean, just not just in overall attitude, individual moments. There was 2 or 3 occasions where he had opportunity to break, and he just ran the ball out of play.
And it's so frustrating because there's a footballer there.
The bit he did for Lisby, that was classic Edwards.
So
and that's the only time he's done it this season.
It's there, but it's just you don't get enough of that to outweigh the other bits that happen in the moment.
And obviously there was a tweet, was there, Si, last week where it was Aurora Edwards needs to be freed, and he liked the tweet. So sort of alluded to the fact that maybe an offer came in and the club didn't accept it, and he felt like he could have potentially gone up the pyramid. Well, now's his time to prove it. After this suspension's lifted, if he can work himself back into the team, now's his time to put in a shift. And I spoke to a member of the promotion winning team in 2006, and I asked him why the team was so successful. And he said that they were allowed to use the club as a stepping stone. Every single player there, bar a few, were either young, promising players that had come through our youth setup, or it hadn't quite worked out at other clubs, but they were wanting to kickstart their career. They were wanting to make that step up into the Championship. Some of them obviously did it with us when they got the promotion, but they were looking to be Championship and Premier League footballers. And the core of that side gelled, they worked hard, they were dogged, they were gritty, they were determined, and they got there. Whether that was with Colchester United, they became Championship footballers. A few of them became Premier League footballers. And, there was Ella Kobe, Richard Garcia, Greg Halford. They had fantastic careers. Chris Iwelumo, fantastic careers because they'd had a setback, they'd had a hurdle where they needed to come to Colchester to restart their career, and they took the opportunity with both hands. And if you're not willing to dig deep, work hard, put yourself in the shop window so that you can progress your career, you'll end up playing in the Ryman League, mate. And there's plenty of players that have done that.
Yeah, and we appreciate that. We know. I mean, the players, you make a great point about it's not necessarily young players coming through. It's players who need to sort of, it's the trampoline bounce back up from that scene. You had Neil Dans, you had, and recently, I think Wiridu's
had a
great example. Osama Ashley needed something, and I know he's still at Salford, but he's doing really well. He's got interest in it. Sorry, Saigon.
I'd say Osama's a prime example. He obviously came from West Ham, did 2 seasons. Cameron McGeehan's another one. Used us to get back into England, and everyone's happy with what he did.
That's literally what Cameron McGeehan did as well. That was literally what he was.
So honest.
He was honest about it. And that's what he was after.
And he did what he came to do.
Marvin Sordell did the same thing. It's just so frustrating to watch someone.
There's only so much you can do for people. Which is, I know I'm in my mid-40s. I don't have Instagram, but just liking all these things. Grow up, do your job, and you'll get where you want to go.
It appeared like there was a lack of threat. Danny's comments after, he seemed really disappointed. He seemed really upset with how things went. We will go to the one-word reviews. I think we need to think ahead rather than think back. Otherwise, we'll drive ourselves mental. I'll drive myself mental. Gordon said abysmal. Blake said poor. Malcolm said pointless. Mike said fixable, which very positive. I quite like that.
That is as positive as you could possibly
get. Very
get.
positive.
So well done. Was that Malcolm?
That was Mike. Malcolm said pointless. Mike said fixable. George said flaccid, which I thought was very good. And Luke said nervous, and then he justified it by saying we need to. Things still haven't clicked yet, and I really agree with what Luke said there. So that is the Accrington game. I think for our own sanity, we'll move ahead to Bristol Rovers very shortly. But Dave, it's lovely chatting to you as always. And
No, it wasn't. It really wasn't.
yeah, hopefully we can.
It should be the therapy session, isn't it? A therapy session.
It has, yeah, it has. But yeah, great to chat, and I'll chat to you very shortly.
Cheers, guys.
Huge thanks to Si and Dave there. And next up, we switch focus to the women's side, who are flying after that big 7-3 win. Si, Dave and I were joined by defender Niamh Gamble for a chat ahead of their FA Cup second qualifying round clash with Enfield. Let's hear how that went. Welcome back to Beyond the Barside. I'm joined as ever by Si, Dave, and we're joined by Niamh Gamble as well. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, very well, thank you. So for those that don't know, obviously you're a regular feature in our women's side, which has been quite a big year, really, and a year of new things, a step up in the pyramid, join the FA Cup as well, and a pretty convincing 7-3 win today over Wormley. How was the game today?
Yeah, it was a really good performance from the team today. I think we've sort of had a difficult start to the season, obviously stepping up into Tier 6. There's a huge difference in quality, and every game's like a cup final in this league. But yeah, I think everything seems to sort of tick today. Disappointed to have conceded 3. But in terms of our in possession bits, sort of seems like everything's sort of coming together now, which is good.
Yeah, definitely. And from what I gathered, the first half, you sort of came out the traps really, really quick, and then they still managed to get the 3 goals on Colchester. But yeah, stepping up into Tier 6, how's it been? I mean, what's it like making the jump?
It's been a pretty rocky start to the season, I suppose. Yeah, the jump up has been big. We've got a lot of new players that, it's going to take time to build and gel together. Yeah, like I said, the quality's brilliant, and I think every game, you're going to have to bring your best, and I don't think we've quite brought our best just yet. Like you said today, still conceding 3, we are playing so well. So hopefully we can defensively become a little bit stronger. But yeah, we've put in some good performances. Obviously, a good FA Cup win last weekend. And we're not struggling to score goals at the minute, which is always a positive to have.
Yeah,
it's good to have a Colchester team that is free scoring.
Still salty about yesterday
then. Yeah, I mean the FA Cup win over Cambridge Rangers was really good, and obviously that gets you into the second qualifying round on Sunday, where you travel to Enfield. I looked that £3,000 is on offer for sort of winning that, and then it sort of goes to $750 if you don't. Obviously, we won't think about that. But how are you feeling ahead of the journey to Enfield? Are you feeling positive?
Yeah, we're really excited for it. Like you said, obviously, where there is so much at stake, that kind of prize money is huge for a club like ours who is self-funded. Obviously, all of our money and the way that we run our team, it comes from sponsorship. So like every bit of cash is so helpful towards making sure that we can run the team as best as possible. Obviously, Enfield are in the league above us, so we know it's going to be a tough game, but I think it's definitely a winnable game for us. Obviously, we've made so many good signings for this season, we know we've got the strength in our squad to go and win that game. It's just about making sure that on the day we perform and we bring our best.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's an exciting one, really. As you say, £3,000 can go a heck of a long way, particularly, community funded club as well. What's it like sort of, you've gained a little bit more traction on socials and stuff. More people are aware of Colchester United Women's side. How's that side of things gone?
Yeah, it's brilliant. We do often get, a good sized crowd coming down to watch us. Even when we were in Tier 7 last year and the year before, the support we had at the Garrisons was amazing. There's not a game that we play at home where there isn't a crowd cheering us on. And it is, as cliche as it sounds, it is like having a 12th player there. I think as well with the FA Cup last weekend, we had all of our pathway players there as mascots and flag bearers, and it always just makes such a brilliant atmosphere when you've got upwards of 30 of our young kids from our pathway there supporting. On a Monday when the girls are training as well, pathway training, they're all talking about the game, and the support we've had on the sidelines has been brilliant.
Yeah, brilliant. It's great to see that the pathway players can sort of see, where it all ends up. So that's brilliant for them. It's really good for them to see. I'm conscious that it's just me asking questions. I'll throw the floor out to Si and Dave.
Well, I'm interested, Niamh, you mentioned about the new players you've got in. How are you recruiting? I mean, there's obviously being Colchester United at level 6 now. Does that have a bit of cachet? Can you scout? Do you still rely on people coming to you?
Yeah, so during the summer we held sort of, I think it was 4 or 5 open training sessions where anybody could come down, and we had a huge amount of players wanting to come and play for us. Obviously, where you are associated to a professional club, it does help. So we had upwards of 100 players, I think, across like the 4 sessions come down, and then the coaching staff sort of whittled that down a little bit more. So I think it was about 30 players in total were then invited back for a final session. And yeah, that's how sort of the players for this season were picked. We've just had a new signing join today. She made her debut and actually scored twice today. And myself and Lindsay play with her at Essex, so that's sort of a nice little route to try and get players in that sense. But yeah, I think a lot of it comes down to almost who players that we might have played with at previous clubs. Again, the centre half who we signed this year, I played with her back when I was about 16. So it's all about sort of making sure that you're really selling the environment to people that you've played with previously or people that that are looking around for new clubs and things like that. So yeah, there's not really as much of a scouting network, more so just word of mouth and letting friends that you've played with previously, let them know how good it is and what the setup's like. And we are really lucky, we've got such brilliant coaching staff, we've got physio, we've got S&C coach, we've got so many brilliant people who work with us on the pitch, off the pitch, that it's not a hard sort of thing to sell to players. A lot of people will want to come and play for us, which is good for us in terms of getting in some key players.
Yeah, as captain and it being Colchester, do you have to do more media stuff? Do you enjoy that?
I'm not actually captain.
Sorry, I thought you were.
Oh, Dave, come on, do your
research has failed me.
I wore the armband the other day, actually. I think it was the last game of the season last year. I wore the armband for a little bit. But our captain's a girl called Cassie, and she's brilliant. Yeah, such a leader at heart, like brilliant captain. But yeah, I don't mind doing all the media duties and things. Obviously, I work for the foundation, so often it is me sort of getting dragged into things and put in front of the camera. But yeah, I don't mind it. I could sit and talk about football and Colu for days. So yeah, I quite enjoy it.
I think, like you said, though, these players you've got in are setting down definitely a marker. Obviously, your new centre half. You will be allowed to say her name, bless her.
Yeah.
So obviously, Daisy being who she is going to get you goals. Be at Lawford. I managed her at Lawford, so that's how I know her. And obviously, you've got Lou Kane joining for Stabway. Jamie has been there for ages. So because you've got some established players on the circuit, so to speak, I suppose it does open doors for a lot of people who know them. I think, well, actually, if they want to play for you guys, people are going to come along. And obviously, I think Daisy got over 30 goals, didn't she, for Hoskin last season? So she'll bang them for fun for you. Obviously, she's playing for Essex. But do you think at a stage you can get to the point where to develop further, it's going to be harder to maybe not take some of the players with you and then obviously have to replace them with others? How long do you think it'll be to get to that sort of level? That's going to be difficult.
I think we've sort of had that over the summer, even sort of in the transition from our first season to our second and then second to third. The coaching staff and the committee had to have really difficult conversations with a few of the players that maybe weren't quite ready to jump up to that next level. And the gap in the level that we've sort of progressed through in our first 3 years isn't massive, but they've had to sort of sadly let some people move to new clubs and things like that. So yeah, that sort of stage is already happening. We've already had to sort of say goodbye to some players that maybe weren't quite ready for our team at this stage. So yeah, it's sort of an ongoing thing, I suppose, but it's a good problem to have, I think, in terms of making sure that as a club, our committee feel comfortable having those conversations and not feeling as though, as much as they are loyal and want to look after players, that it's important that you put yourself in a position where you can go and win games, even when you go and, we had a double promotion last season. So to go from, I think we were in Div 2 all the way up to the Prem in one season, you had to sort of let some players leave to allow space for more talent to come in. But yeah, I think that is definitely a thought, and especially for some of us who are a little bit older in the squad, thinking, when am I going to get phased out?
Well, I suppose it's good in a way. At least any players come in, see the club has got a sort of, an end game, does want to get as high as it can. You aren't just doing it for a bit of fun on a Sunday. So at least it shows the outside football world you are there and mean business. And obviously, I take it the plan is just to go as high as you can and then start playing at the stadium.
Yeah, exactly that. I think when I first proposed the idea, myself and a guy called Jake Mullender, who used to work for the foundation, we first proposed a sort of business plan to the chair of the club. And within that sort of 5-year plan, we'd set to be in the league that we're in now. So we're well ahead of our 5-year plan. So essentially, the long-term vision of it is just to go and push on as high as possible, eventually start playing at the stadium. I think Danielle Warnes, our chairwoman, mentioned it at the club's open day at the Q&A panel that, we're not at a stage right now where, it's feasible to get us into the stadium. The atmosphere wouldn't be quite right. We wouldn't fill enough seats to make it worthwhile doing. And I think whilst we've got the Garrisons and, that pitch there is unbelievable in itself, but also the environment it creates for supporters to come along, it's perfect for the stage that we're at now. And, hopefully in a couple of years' time, we'll be at the stage where we can play at the stadium and make it worthwhile doing so.
Yeah,
What do you think? Sorry, Aaron.
No, it was something that that I spoke to Andy and Louise about on our first episode, because obviously it had not been long since Ipswich had announced that partnership and that they'd be playing at the ground. So I don't know, it sort of gives Ipswich an opportunity to iron out the kinks, and then we can come in a few years and send them back to Felixstowe. That would be nice. But yeah, go on, Dave. Sorry.
I was going to say, what do you think for this season, Niamh? Is it you can clearly score a lot of goals, you can clearly concede a few as well. Are you consolidating this season? Can you once everything gels, do you think you can be near promotion again?
I think so. I think obviously we want to just like you said, firm our place in the league. But I think it's realistic to be aiming for top 3. I know that a few people running around the squad have been talking about that top spot. I don't like to get too ahead of myself, especially as a defender, and we keep conceding. Not looking great for me. But no, I think it's definitely, we're more than capable of finishing in the top 3 potentially. We were saying actually earlier today when we were having a bit of a debrief with a few of the girls after the game, that I think the best thing about this league is that anybody can beat anybody, which helps us where we've probably not got as many points from our first sort of 4 games that we would have liked to have. So yeah, I think it's all to sort of play for. I think, at the beginning of the season, we probably would have said we want to at least mid-table and above, but I think we could go on and hopefully secure a top 3 finish, which would be nice.
Fingers crossed.
Where does top 3 lead to?
So only the team that wins the league goes up into the Eastern Region Prem division. So you have to win the league to go up, unfortunately. But, it might happen. You never know.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Yeah, I think this has been great. I mean, obviously the Enfield game is quite an important one. It's at Enfield, which is a shame. If it was at the Garrison, it would have been nice for as many U's fans to get there as possible. But Enfield's not a million miles away. But I posed this question to Andy and Louise at the beginning of the season. I'm going to put you on the spot as well, I'm afraid. But what would you say to anyone, potentially thinking about coming to watch the U's at the Garrison? How would you sell it to them?
If you want to see lots of goals, come to the Garrison. We seem to be scoring so many, especially now we've got Daisy in as a new number 9. But yeah, I think it's always entertaining games. What the girls are really good at as well is engagement with the fans and the supporters that come down. We'll always go over and have conversations with whoever's come down, because we appreciate it so much. It really does help having, so many people sitting watching us, spending their Sunday afternoons watching our games. It does mean a lot. And I think it creates almost like an intimidating environment for the opposition to come down to when they come down to our ground and see that we've got so many people in blue and white shirts. There's often where we travel to games, you're playing on a park pitch and, they've got a few mums watching, but that's about it. So it's so cool when we turn up to the Garrisons, you've got everybody in Col U shirts, making loads of noise. It is a brilliant atmosphere. So I definitely recommend it if people are, wanting to see Colchester United score some goals for once.
That's a great way of rounding.
What a notion! What a notion!
You're going to set Dave off though. Is fuming. Niamh,
I was waiting to hear from him there.
It's been great to speak to you. Hopefully, we get to chat to you a bit more throughout the season. But best of luck for Sunday, and we'll speak soon.
Perfect. Thank you very much, guys.
Cheers, Niamh.
Cheers, thank you very much. Good luck.
Huge thank you to Niamh for joining us there. And it's time now for our opposition view. I spoke to BBC Radio Bristol presenter and host of the Having a Gas podcast, Richard Hoskin, to get the lowdown on Bristol Rovers ahead of our meeting this weekend. Hope you enjoy. Welcome back to Beyond the Barside. I'm Aaron J and I am joined by BBC Bristol's and the Having a Gas podcast host, Richard Hoskin. How are you doing, mate?
I'm all right. Thank you very much. Good to have you on our show. So more than happy to return the favour.
Yeah. It was a lovely chat about all things Bristol Rovers, although the form you guys are in fills me with much dread given how Colchester are playing at the moment. But we'll start there. 4 league wins on the bounce, including a cup win as well. So 5 wins on the bounce. Things are looking pretty good for Rovers at the moment.
Yeah, it's kind of been, a month, maybe a bit more of a season. It's already been a season of 2 halves. The season started slowly. I mean, losing at home to Harrogate on day one wasn't in the script. They lost to Fleetwood the week after. And yeah, I think Rovers fans were a bit concerned, maybe the hangover of last season when they went down with a bit of a whimper. But in the summer, Rovers appointed Darryl Clark as their new head coach, and he's one of the most popular managers ever to take charge of the club. So a bit of a masterstroke from the club. So that raised spirits. And I think because it was Darryl Clark, fans were a bit more patient than they would have been if someone else was in charge. And things are now turning around. 4 wins in a row. They also beat Tottenham on penalties in the EFL Trophy. So yeah, turning a bit of a corner, I think. And still early days. I think a lot of gasheads still not convinced that they'll be top 7 this season. But just from the misery of last season, it's certainly a vast improvement and nice for Rovers to be winning matches again at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, last season, it wasn't the most sort of successful season in terms of coming down. But how did you feel about that? How do you feel you've sort of acclimatized to the league?
Yeah, I think Rovers know League Two reasonably well. And the stat that they might throw at you is that the last 2 seasons in League Two, they've won promotion. So Darryl Clark was the first manager to do it. And then Joey Barton got Rovers out in that dramatic 7-0 win against Scunthorpe on the last day of the season. So we're not strangers to League Two, but certainly I think it came a bit of a surprise last season, slump in form. I think they were 12 points clear of the relegation zone February, March time, and that just shows how they slid down the league. But yeah, with Darryl Clark in charge, 14 new players as well. It's a very different Bristol Rovers to the one that went down last season. And I think they're turning a corner, haven't turned a corner, but turning a corner. And I think this season, yeah, there'll be a lot more brighter spots for Bristol Rovers fans to enjoy.
Lovely to hear, although hopefully yous can put pay to that ever so briefly on Saturday. Obviously, it's a team in a rich vein of form. Who are we to look out for? Who is going to be striking fear into the hearts of the Colchester fans?
Well, it's funny, yeah, because 14 new signings. I'm still learning their names and getting used to, but they've got Luke Southwood, the winning goal, who's a Northern Ireland international. Defensively, that's where they've improved the last few weeks. Alfie Kilgore, his second spell at Bristol Rovers, he's the captain, and he's helped just strengthen the defence. And he's one of those that, will fist pump the crowd when he gets a good 50-50 challenge in and stuff like that. The midfield, Camille Conte, highly rated. Some people feared he might leave in the summer, but he's still at Bristol Rovers. And looking at the top scorer lists, they haven't got someone who's already got 5-6 goals for the season, but there's just goals there. So good competition between Ellis Harrison, his second spell at the football club as well, and this this new striker from Switzerland, Fabrizio Caven, who he's still warming up, but I think there's a lot of potential there. So yeah, when sometimes you make signings and you're not sure about them, I think the majority of this season's signings have gone down well with supporters as well. Josh McCracken got his first goal for the club last season, former Chelsea. So yeah, there's a lot of positivity about the new faces. Only one or two survivors from last season, and those that have survived, Luke Thomas, arguably playing some of their best football in Bristol Rovers jerseys at the moment.
Brilliant, yeah, and obviously Josh McCracken, he's been hit sort of at a few different places at a higher level, so that's sort of nice to have someone of that calibre playing in League Two. You mentioned that a few Bristol Rovers fans were still a bit nervous and still a little bit pessimistic of your chances to make the playoffs. But how do you feel? Where do you think Rovers will end up?
Yeah, I think if Rovers finish 7th, that will be a successful season, just given, I think Darryl Clark's openly said it might take him 3 transfer windows to get the kind of squad that he wants. And I think the exciting thing is, yes, they've won 4 in a row, but I think generally they're only at about 75% at the moment. There's more to come from this squad when they gel. So with that in mind, I wouldn't be surprised at all. I think top 3 is probably beyond them. On the flip side, if you were to put the gun to my head, who are the best 3 teams in League Two, I probably couldn't tell you. So I think everyone's still trying to find each other out. It's a very open league. And if Rovers can keep getting these results, 4 in a row, and it shows how badly they started this season. I think they're still only 9th. But I think, League Two is there for a promotion push for any team out there, really. And like you said, we're only in September at the moment. So the door's open for most teams still.
Yeah, definitely. I think, the form book sort of goes out the window in League Two, doesn't it? There's sides that anyone can sort of beat anyone. And that what makes League Two football so exciting, I find. But we'll go ahead to Saturday. Obviously, as we've already said, you're 5 wins on the bounce, you're in a great run of form, and you're still sort of gelling, and it seems like every game you play, you'll just get stronger and stronger as you sort of gel and become more cohesive. So how do you see yourselves getting on against Colchester at the JobServe Community Stadium?
That's a good question. I think one of Rovers' more recent away games was Grimsby, and Grimsby been doing well in the Cup. And Rovers, bit of a smash and grab one. I'd personally take a draw. Colchester away is never an easy fixture. You've got Danny Cowley to contend with, and I know that you as a team are looking to find a bit of form and want to be higher up the league. So personally, if you were to offer me a draw right now, I'd probably be happy with that. That said, I'm delighted to take a win, of course, but you just never know what to expect. And I think the Rovers fans will travel in good numbers, always a good travelling support, even though Colchester Bristol is not the easiest journey to make across the M25. My prediction's probably a draw. I'd be delighted with a win, but I wouldn't be surprised if the winning run comes to an end and Rovers, given that by their own admission, in September, it's quite interesting. They've changed their training schedule to work a lot more on fitness. So they've not been finishing games quite so strongly recently. So coasting 3-0 at Newport the other week and pegged back to 3-2. Maybe fortunate 2-0 up against Barrow to get 2-1 in the end. Barrow could have had a penalty on another day. So my advice to Colchester fans is 70 minutes. Don't give up. Don't leave for the exits, whatever the scoreline, because it could be an interesting finish while Rovers just get to grips with their fitness.
Yeah, no, and I think that sort of suits Colchester down to the ground. Danny and Nikki have been quite vocal in their belief in having starting players and finishing players, and we do tend to bring on more of the pacier, more creative players within the last 20-25 minutes. So, if Bristol Rovers are finding that period of the game difficult, then potentially Colchester could nick a draw or nick a win there. But I think a draw would be my guess as well. Richard, it's been lovely to speak to you, and thank you very much for having me on your podcast as well, which is out on Thursday. So it would have come out on Thursday because we're a Saturday morning podcast. So thank you for having me on that, and it's called It's a Gas.
Having a gas.
Having a gas, that's right.
Rovers used to play at Eastville and you can smell gas. So that's why Rovers are called the Gas. And over the years, limited battles with Colchester. I remember Ricky Lambert getting a winning goal at Colchester back in 2008. There was a 5-4, wasn't there, the early noughties? So I don't think it'll be that exciting on Saturday. But yeah, looking forward to the game as always. And nice to speak to you, Aaron.
Lovely to speak to you too. Thank you very much. And to round things off, I brought Si and Dave back in to look ahead to the Bristol Rovers fixture and share how we're feeling going into it. Welcome back to Beyond the Barside. I am Aaron J and I am joined by Dave and Si. Dave, lovely new hoodie, mate.
I took off the angry red hoodie to convey my Accrington emotions. Now I'm looking forward with the calm blue hoodie to whatever the hell happens on Saturday.
I like it. You and I have gone for a costume change just to stitch Si up a little bit.
Yeah,
give the illusion that we're recording on different days. We're not. It's still Sunday, but
I do actually shower and change clothes. I don't just sit here all week in the same clothes. Just in case
we didn't question whether you showered or not, Si. So
I don't know.
It's that guilty conscience now, isn't it?
A window. You've opened a window into your life. Anyway, Aaron.
Yeah. This is one of the funkiest episodes I think we've done so far.
It's the Accrington games caused it.
What they've done to us.
To be fair, I put the post Accrington review on Facebook for the first time. I only really post the episodes on Facebook because I worry that people will get annoyed that I'm spamming the group. But we got a heck of a lot of engagement from that. I feel like we need to utilise that a bit more and put more content out on Facebook because it seems like people are really keen over there, as well as on X as well. We've got Bristol Rovers coming up. Just a little bit of background into Bristol Rovers. They're 9th in the league. They started shaky. They've won 4 league games on the bounce. They also won a cup game in between as well on penalties against Spurs Kids. Ellis Harrison's up top for them, someone the Cowleys are fairly familiar with, someone who's been there and done it in a couple of levels of the Football League pyramid. They're a well-supported side. They're a good side. We've just been knocked from pillar to post by Accrington Stanley. I'm a bit concerned about the Bristol Rovers game. I don't know what you guys think. We'll start with you, Dave.
Well, of course, having witnessed the Accrington game, I'm concerned. But like we've said in the past, being a Col U fan, we know 2 things. We'll get tanked by the Accringtons of the world, and then we'll probably beat the Bristol Rovers of the world. So, and, it all depends how they bounce back.
Yeah.
Do they, like you mentioned, Aaron, do they want to show that the Accrington performance doesn't represent them, doesn't represent who they are, where they want to be? It sounds quite dramatic, but it is, at the end of the day, it's their profession. It's they've got to be passionate about it. You can't get to where they've got without being passionate. We're passionate about it. It'll be very interesting. I imagine the training ground will be a very interesting place this week.
Yeah.
After that, the starting lineup is going to be really interesting. I think the back four will go back to Araujo in the centre as it was at the end of the game. Araujo in the centre and Powell back on the left. Powell did his best to give it a spark, but we were so far down in the ditch when he came on. It was just impossible for him to get us to climb even a millimetre higher into it. And in the midfield, I think Gape's performance does not warrant another start. I also let's not be those type of people to just write.
No. I'm not going to write players.
I know. I'm only joking, but I also don't think Danny and Nicky were impressed with anyone in that midfield. Do they? What happens in training? Do they say, right, you've got another chance? Do we go back to Bishop and Reed, who can progress the ball well? I really don't know. And I think this strange injury Anderson seems to have, whereby he does really hard fitness sessions in front of us before the match. He did that again on Saturday. Gets involved in the warm up and the round robins, and then isn't fit to play. I don't know what it could be. Some sort of I don't know, ankle or something where he can't twist or whatever. But he's clearly fit. If he comes in, if he's fit, I think he comes back in for Kyrese. I think it was a whole team effort. Is effort the right word? On Sunday, so Kyrese by no means should be singled out. Obviously had a bad miss, and I think one of the reasons he was taken off, obviously we were chasing the game, and you might think, why are we taking off potentially our most dangerous player? I think it was the writing was on the wall, and he is young, and to come into a game like that and play the full 90 after being mainly an impact player. I know he played the full 90 at Wycombe, but it was slightly different. And to play the full 90 in a game like that out wide, I think there's an element of protecting him.
Yeah.
Making sure he's fresh. So I think Anderson comes back in. And then on the left, it's not going to be Aurora, for better or worse, which I think we all agree is probably better at this particular moment in time.
So the options would be Gordon or Akande, which for you is like it's like Sophie's choice a little bit there, isn't it? So
I'm not wholly anti Akande. I don't see why.
You got a funny way of showing it.
But I say, if that's not you, I hate to see you anti someone. I really would. If that's still how you feel about.
You're on the way.
You're not anti.
You're on the way.
You're on the way.
But
give me time.
But I don't see. You see a lot of fans who just he's got to start. He's got to start. I don't see that at all. But give him his chance. He's not had. He's clearly got something.
Mm-hmm.
And he's shown it in flashes. I was impressed with him at Shrewsbury when he played in the centre, actually. Mm-hmm. He was very direct. He carried the ball really well. So I definitely think there's a player there. I just don't think he should be in the starting lineup. And Gordon, he's just done it. It was very interesting what Danny said about erratic performances in-game as well. I think J.K. Gordon is the absolute template of that. There was a game, I think the final game last season against Barrow. I think we spoke offline about it before. First 20 minutes, absolutely unplayable.
Yeah.
The final home game of the season. He lets the ball roll under his foot or something, or miscontrols one. His confidence has gone, completely ineffective for the rest of the game. So he can, again, he's another one. He can do it. And I think he probably will start.
I think Gordon, as you say, feeds off confidence. I think he's a confidence player. And I think for one reason or another, his confidence has been knocked. And I know Danny mentioned there were off the field things as well as on the field things for J.K. Gordon. And I think he, on his day, he's a really good player. But what I will say about J.K. Gordon, he puts the effort in, he puts the yards in. He does work hard when he's on the pitch, even if it's not coming off for him. And
I agree.
When you're looking for a reaction to a performance that wasn't great, I'd rather J.K. Gordon than an Aurora Edwards in that situation, because I think he will work hard. And I think you're right.
Yeah.
The training ground's going to be interesting. I think the team selection will be based on how we've reacted in training, because, as I said earlier, I think character gets you through a situation like this. And I think Gape's an experienced player. He's been around the clubs. I would imagine
you'd like to think
he'd score enough where he'll react well. I feel the same about Jack Baldwin too. I'd imagine that he's going to go into training with a bit between his teeth and try and rectify what was probably not the performance he'd hoped for in his first league start. Obviously Payne is an ever-present figure in our side, and I'm sure he'll react positively, and Rob Hunt has been Mr. Consistent for this season. I'm sure he'll be the same. So the talent is there. Maybe the Accrington Stanley game is what's given certain players a little bit of a wake up call and a rocket, and we'll come out against Bristol Rovers with a bit between our teeth, and we'll go for it. We'll go at them, and we'll pick up a victory. I'll go to you, Si, because we spoke. Well, it was mentioned on X that potentially the system that we play and the tactic that we have sort of adopted in terms of going route one to Samson, it isn't really working, and we're not really creating the chances to open teams up. Do you see a change in system? Do you see a change in tactic off the back of that performance? Or do you think Danny will relentlessly stick to the principles that he's spoken about so much in the beginning of the season?
I think he'll stick to the principles of what he's wanting to do, because I don't think this lump it up top route one football is what he actually wants to do.
Mm-hmm.
He's trying to get very much a ball playing side that will calmly play the ball around the back, use the midfielders to try and break down the lines, to ping it out wide, then use pacey, then cut back inside from the byline into the 6-yard box or ping across into the striker. I think the reason we end up going route one is because it just all goes to pot on the pitch. The people panic, and sometimes the inexperience of the younger player shows, and they're just almost trying to get rid of the ball, so to speak, or trying to make false play and force something to happen, which is why I think the biggest selection issue Danny's got this coming weekend is going to be his midfield.
Mm-hmm.
As in, like we've always alluded to, do you put Bishop and Reed together? Do you drop one and keep one? If so, who do you play in the middle? Gape is a tough one. Ben Perry was who we were going to play. He was the plan to play most of the games. Gape was to be the old experienced pro, whether to sort of help Perry out or be the granddad of the team in the change rooms to try and encourage people. Suddenly, Perry's now out for the season. Gape's being thrust into it a little bit of like, this wasn't part of the plan.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're looking for action, because we're looking to show we need to change and it's not good enough, I'd bring young Ronnie Harvey into the side and play him in Gape's position, purely because he adds a bit of the defensive side that, oh God, I'm going to have to say it, the Jamie McDonald ball to the side last year.
Ding, 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 ding.
Jamie
McDonald bell.
I've done well. I've got to need an hour rather than I mentioned him. So, and also I think by bringing a youngster in like that, who seems to have the maturity to take his chance, will also throw a rocket up a lot of the other players' backsides, realising actually Danny is willing to drop seasoned pros, so to speak, for younger players. And if they take their chance, they keep their place. It will be Gordon and Anderson, I reckon, across the two wings. And like Dave said, the midfield will probably stay as it finished. Just so midfield, the defence will stay as it finished. And yeah, we need to look to get the ball on the ground through the system, through the triangles, and play the ball rather than play the pitch and play the opposition, which we were guilty of at Accrington. And whenever we seem to start playing badly, that's what we start just doing, hoofing the ball up and hoping for action, which is why I think Kyrie's has such an impact, because he doesn't really mind whether the ball's to him, away from him, or wherever. He has the pace to get to the loose ball.
Mm-hmm.
That's why he looks so effective, because we're just booting balls up. 9 times out of 10, he'll just blitz past everybody to get it. So a reaction's needed. I think there needs to be a statement change in the squad to prove to the players that Danny's going to be not ruthless for the sake of being ruthless, but ruthless to the point where he knows where he's got depth in his squad, and that is the position where to do it, and then look to take Kyrie's back to being a finisher, because I think that's where he's more effective, and that'll help get Kyrie's confidence back as well.
Yeah, and it's worth noting that I think I've said it already on the podcast, but I'll say it again. All of Kyrie's goals have come when he's been brought onto the pitch compared to when he started. So, there's a lot to be said for bringing him on at the end of the game. I'll be honest as well. I've been relatively impressed with Micah Embick and Jaden Williams in their roles of coming on. I think they're looking positive and they're looking to create, but they're also usually coming into a side that is desperately trying to claw something out of the game. So I do sort of feel for them a little bit, because when you're in that situation, patterns of playing systems go to pot a little bit. So I wouldn't be against either of them coming into the fold either. So, but Dave, sorry, I cut you off there, mate.
No, I was just going to say, I don't think Danny is one of those dogmatic managers, like Amorim or Russell Martin, what he's doing up, tearing
Russell Martin's
Rangers
losing the plot,
to
isn't he?
shreds. But I think he will adapt. He will change things if he thinks there's something to change. But I don't think it's a system. It's the way the players are playing the system at the moment.
Yeah.
And because with the 4-2-3-1, that means we can always have sometimes 3, depending, but we can always have 2 of Jack Payne, Teddy Bishop, Arthur Reed on the pitch, and that's our strength when it comes. And at the moment, I mean, Jack Payne came off again. He came off. We're just not getting the ball to him enough.
Mm-hmm.
He's making runs. I think sometimes this has been the case for a while now. Something I've noticed with sort of successive teams, even before the County, we don't play. Hopefully, I can describe it properly. If you look at that really good Notts County team from a couple of years ago, we beat 5-4, but we're incredible going forward.
Mm-hmm.
Or that the Forest Green team that ripped the league apart, went to League One. There was always that 10 or 15 yard diagonal ball in between the defence and the midfield, with someone running into it on a diagonal run. And we do make those runs. I've noticed Bishop's been making those runs, Payne's, but we don't back ourselves to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not happening. And ultimately, they stop making those runs and drop deep to try and influence the game elsewhere. Then we're forced to go long. Samson, sometimes he's good at holding up the ball, sometimes he's not, but he's got no one around him to be. Because going back to erratic performances, I think Samson again. I made the point against Barnet, and I thought as well against Crewe, we're starting to see a development in his game, bringing other people in, where he was holding the ball and rolling people and able to bring other people into the game. But there was a couple of times against Accrington side where he just stood still, and just didn't. I won't say that he didn't make an effort, but he didn't have himself in the right body shape. He wasn't ready for it. And so, yeah, again, I think he'll start again. But yeah, I think the system, for the players we have, the system works. That the players have just got to take a bit more responsibility, I think.
Yeah, no, I think that's completely fair.
Weird, isn't it? Sorry to spoil. Danny talks about having starters as finishers. I think we've got a lot more finishers,
and starters.
And his finishers, I think he's got a very clear idea who they are, how they're going to play, and what they're going to bring at certain times in the game. So what we're struggling with is the players that got to play to start the game. Without taking too many of the finishers to put them in the starters, is finding a set of starters that work well together to set up the conditions for the finishers to come on and do their bit. And that's where I think we're kind of not getting the transition right.
Mm-hmm. No, I think that's a really, really good point that you've raised there. That we've got more finishers than starters, I would say, in our squad, which isn't great when it's a 90-minute game. Speaking of sort of additions and squads, obviously the free agent market is still there. There's still a heck of a lot of players without a club, a heck of a lot of good players without a club, and I suggested that we'd get to this point in the season where the window's shut and players would panic, and potentially what would have been a League One signing will look at Colchester and go, yeah, okay, maybe. We've got a free agent training with us this week. Danny said that if the player fits, he's not averse to bringing someone in. Do you think we see a potential new arrival come into the fold ahead of the Rovers game?
I'd be very surprised if it had a Rovers game. And even if it did come in, I'd be very surprised if the player was involved. I'm sure with I would think they'll be looking at potentially athletic centre mids. Obviously, every team would like an athletic centre mid, but in the sort of Perry, Osama Ashley, Wiradoo mould. Obviously, those sort of players aren't likely to be available to us, certainly on free agency. But just to give that bit of energy, there was no energy at Accrington. I think we need that. So I would imagine that's where they're focusing if they are doing that, and maybe another number. It all depends. When Goodwin's 6 weeks away now, and probably another 4 or 6 weeks till he gets injured again. And obviously Ellis is coming back, which will be a huge boost. Nothing against Powell, but just Ellis's leadership.
It's the experience of Ellis, isn't it?
And everything,
Leadership,
his consistency and everything that he brings. So I think maybe another centre mid, because Carvey, very young, really looking forward to how he's going to progress. And obviously Milton Oney's the other one, but they've got to be so careful with him. So maybe like a Cameron McGeehan sort of solution. Get someone in, needs that springboard, stays for a season, does a job. That'd be nice, but
that would be nice.
I can't see it.
So looking ahead to the Bristol Rovers game, what are we thinking? We'll go for score predictions. Si, what are you going for?
So I've been really positive all season. It's been coming back to bite me. So I think we're going to lose 2-1.
2-1 loss at home. Okay.
It's the reverse psychology. Every time I've gone for good results, we've always done badly. So maybe I'll try this one.
Okay. No, I think that's fair enough. Dave, what are you going for, mate?
Toughest one of the season so far, but I still believe in this team, and I think there will be a reaction. I don't think we'll win, but I think we'll have a spirited, forward-thinking 2-2 draw.
Okay, I'm going to go 1-1 because statistics. I think we're going to see a reaction. I want to see a reaction. I think that's the general message from this section of the podcast. But Si, Dave, lovely to chat to you both, and hopefully myself and Dave are right and you're wrong, Si.
Hopefully, fingers crossed.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers, guys. Have a good one.
Cheers.
And that is a wrap for this week's Beyond the Barside. A big thanks to Si, Dave, Niamh and Richard for joining me. And as always, thanks to you lot for listening. If you enjoyed the podcast, please do give us a like, share it with friends, enemies, family, whoever you'd like to share it with, and drop us a rating. A 5-star review on Spotify or Apple really spreads the word to more Col U fans. And we'll be back next week with more U's chat. Until then, up the U's.